if you want your man to care about your relationship as much as you do, if you want him to step up and start moving things in your relationship forward, if you want him to value and appreciate you more, there's really only one way to do it, and that is to make him feel like he's afraid that he's going to lose you. And this is, I know it sounds a little kind of gamey or manipulative or something, but just hear me out. Because a lot of times we as humans, and men especially, don't really value something until they feel like maybe it's going to disappear or go away. And so I'm going to talk to you today about how to connect with a man in a way that makes him realize that you're amazing and you're unique and you're special and you're awesome, and he doesn't want to lose you. Hello, my name is Matthew Coast, and welcome to Helena Hart's channel. That was me taking over Helena Hart's introduction like I do every time on the channel. So
yes. As most of you know, I love doing live streams with Matt. We do this all the time, and he's the only expert that I let introduce the topics because he's so great at it and just gets right to the point, which I know everybody loves. Something I have a challenge with sometimes. So yeah, this is great. We're going to be sharing. Oh, hello to everyone in the chat. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to be sharing 5 powerful secrets that always work. And I know, Matt, everyone's going to love everything you have to share. Is there anything you want to say before we get started? Are you ready to just dive in?
I am just grateful to be here. So thank you so much, Helena. I think you're awesome. And thanks for having me on.
Yes, I'm losing my voice a little bit today, so I'll just hopefully let you take over the talking. Okay, great. This is awesome. So do you want to jump into these 5 secrets, or is there anything you want to say to pre-frame this topic?
Yeah, I do actually want to pre-frame it. And basically what we're doing here is, my whole goal for you is to help you get into a relationship where you're loved and you're seen and you're cherished, where you have a man who really values you and looks at you as a unique and amazing and special woman that he wants to be with in a long-term committed relationship. He just wants to be with you and only you. And I've, been in this industry since 2005, and I've seen everything on both the men and the women's side. And what I found is that the best thing that you can do, if you want a man to value you more, if you feel like you're in a situation where he's kind of taking you for granted, if he's not moving things forward, if you're in any one of those kinds of situations and you want him to value you and move things forward and do all that kind of stuff, the best thing that you can do is put yourself in something that I call a position of power. And sometimes women freak out a little bit when I talk about power, right? All power means is your ability to get what it is that you want. And I want you to get the relationship that you want. And that's why it's so important to put yourself into a position of power. And so there are actually 4 different things here that we're going to be talking about. I call it the 4 C's. You're going to communicate, construct, connect, and then convey. And what that's going to do is it's going to put you in a position of power and make him start feeling like you're kind of pulling away a little bit. And he's going to start feeling like he's scared that maybe you're going to go away. And for most men, they're going to start chasing you when this happens. And so that's what it is.
I love what you said. Let's dive in. What is that first secret you want to share?
Okay, so the first one is communicate, right? So a lot of women come to me and they tell me that they're giving everything to a man. That's a very, very common thing that I hear. I'm giving everything to a man, but he's still taking me for granted. And usually what this means is that she's really doing all these things for a guy or to a guy, and it's usually smothering him, right? So what she thinks that she's doing all these great things, but it's actually pushing him away and smothering him and turning him off and making him feel like he needs space. And what she's really doing is usually giving him what she thinks that she should be giving him, what she wants to give him instead of what he needs, right?
Yeah.
And you have to focus on what it is that he needs. So for instance, I'm just going to give an example actually from my family. My dad lives on the East Coast of America. And I used to live on the western side of America. And my dad would buy me these gift cards, right, for restaurants. And every time he'd buy me a gift card for a restaurant for like my birthday or something, I was always like, oh my God, am I getting another one, right? And it would show up, and it was always for a restaurant that wasn't on the western side of America.
Oh my gosh, how funny. Yeah.
A gift card for a restaurant on the eastern side of America. And it was just an example. Like, if you don't know, this is dysfunctional family 101, right? Buy your son a gift card for a restaurant that isn't, anywhere near him. Maybe he was trying to give me a subtle hint that he wanted me to move back to where he was. But anyway, the point is that he was giving me what he wanted to give me instead of finding out what it was that I wanted and then giving me that. And so here's what you need to do. Here's what you need to do. And we're kind of setting everything up, right? You need to communicate with him, and you're going to be communicating this one thing. You need to let him know that you're going to be getting involved in some other activities. Right. So all the things that you're trying to do to be perfect and prove yourself and, convince him that you're the right woman for him, you need to stop doing all of those things completely. Stop doing any of those things, all of those things. And instead, you need to communicate that you're going to start being more busy in your life because you just got involved in some kind of activity. Let's say, for instance, my favorite one is underwater basket weaving. You've joined in underwater basket weaving a league with some of your friends, and you're going to be very, very busy weaving baskets underwater, and because you're trying to join the Olympics, to do this in the Olympics. And so you're going to be very, very busy. And so the reason that you're doing this is because you're setting yourself up in a position of value, right? You're pulling yourself away a little bit. One of the things that creates value is scarcity, and so when you're trying to prove yourself, and when you're doing all these things, and you're smothering him, you're actually lowering your value in his eyes, right? Because people that do that, they don't believe in their own value. Right? It's only people who don't try to prove themselves that actually believe in their value, and that gets conveyed to the man, right? Subconsciously. He might not even know it. He'll just start feeling less attracted to you if you're smothering him and doing all these things. And so when you start pulling away a little bit, it conveys that you are owning your value. You realize that you don't have to do all these things. You don't have to convince him. You don't have to prove to him. And you're stepping away. And so you're communicating it first. That's the first thing that you're doing, is you're communicating that you're going to be pulling away a little bit.
Okay. I love that. Can I ask a question just to clarify? When would be the right time to do this? I would imagine if everything's going well and a man's energy is coming towards you, there is not this need to oh my gosh, I need to convey this thing, because it's for when a woman probably starts to feel a little undervalued or taken for granted, I would imagine. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. I mean, so it depends, right? It's good for two different kinds of situations. One situation is, maybe things are, he's starting to take you for granted. There's some problems. You're feeling like you're undervalued in the relationship. You feel like you want something more, and he's not moving things to more, right? Those are the kinds of situations. Those are one of the kind of situation. The other one is when things have kind of lost steam, right? Things have kind of gotten boring, and it's one of those things, right? You don't want to give everything to the relationship. You want to have kind of this separate identity. And we're going to be talking about that here in a minute here, because it's very important that you have your own things going on. Because if you are with a man who starts doing things that you don't like or whatever, it'll devastate you if your identities are completely merged and you're constantly on top of each other, doing things with each other all the time. If you're in a great relationship where there's tons of passion and you guys are giving to each other, and it's just, you're just just smothering each other and you just love it or whatever, right? Obviously, you don't really need to do anything at that point other than what it is that you're currently doing, because what you're currently doing is working. If what you're doing isn't currently working, this is what you want to do.
Yes. Thank you so much for clarifying that. Yeah, because if things are working great, you're obviously doing everything right. So keep doing what you're doing. But if you're here listening to this, I would imagine that a woman, wanting advice on this topic feels maybe afraid of losing the man. Maybe she feels him slipping away and she feels undervalued, like we mentioned. So thank you so much for clarifying. That was perfect. You want to move on to the next secret, or is there anything else you want to say on this one?
Yeah, that's it for the communicate one. You're just communicating that you're going to be pulling away a little bit. You're going to be solidifying your own identity. And so that's what you do. Secret number 2 is construct, right? You're going to be constructing kind of this position of power, creating this thing where you're going to be able to easily get what it is that you want. And we'll talk a little bit more about what it is that you want and what that might actually look like, as opposed to what you think it might look like right now, right? So a lot of times women come to me and they think that what they want is something different than what it is that they actually want. So we're going to talk about that here in a second.
Okay.
So you're going to be constructing, and there's a few different elements to this construction thing. The first one is what we were just talking about, which is creating a life and an identity that's separate and outside of the relationship. So women come to me all the time and they tell me that they lost themselves to the relationship, right? They just lost themselves to the relationship, and they've given everything to it, and they're just totally consumed by the relationship. And things start going wrong or awry or whatever, and they're so caught up in it that they start feeling devastated. They start feeling really, really bad, and they wonder why they're so unhappy or devastated when the guy does something that they don't like. And so you want a different scenario here, right? You want him to start pursuing you and chasing you and investing in you, right? Because this raises your value in his eyes. The more effort a man puts into you, the more he will value you. It's just I call it the investment principle, right? So the more that he invests from an emotion, a mental, a financial, an energy standpoint, a time standpoint, right? The more things that he does for you, the more that he puts into the relationship, the more he sits around and thinks about you, the more that he goes out of his way and does different things for you, the more he's going to value you. And that's just, it's a psychological law that applies to actually everything and everyone, right? Men value what they earn, and you want him to continue to earn you, right? Yeah. Ideally, you want to be building a relationship together where you both earn each other. That way you both value each other through the relationship. But if he's not valuing you, you want to switch things around so that he starts pursuing you, he starts valuing you, he starts putting that effort in so that he'll value you more. And so you're also creating scarcity here, right? So, what makes people value diamonds is the same thing that makes men value women, right? She's desirable and she's scarce. And so you're creating some scarcity there by pulling back a little bit. You're not smothering him. You're not, getting too familiar, right? There's a thing called the law of familiarity, where it's, the more that you are around something, anything, doesn't matter what it is, the more you just start taking it for granted, even if it's just a little bit. And you can think about it like with a song, that maybe a really cool song that you hear and you really like this song. And so you get the song and then you play the song over and over and you're just like, yeah, I just love this song. It's just so awesome. I love it. This is the best song ever. But eventually what ends up happening is you might still like it, but if you listen to it just over and over and over and over, after a little while, it's not going to be as exciting anymore.
Yeah,
right.
So true.
But if you stop listening to it for a little bit and then you listen to it again a week later or a little bit later, or maybe it comes on the radio randomly, like a couple weeks later, you're like, yes, that's my song again. I love it. I love this song. Right. And all of a sudden you have that renewed energy again. And that's the scarcity principle versus the law of familiarity. Right. So you want to create some space. That way, the time that he has around you, he's a lot more excited. It's more interesting. And you can do this in a relationship as well, right? This isn't just for dating. You can create space in a relationship so that you have your own thing going on and he has his own thing going on. And then at some point you guys come together and it's not, you know, you're not just constantly on top of each other all the time.
This is phenomenal, Matt. This is totally resonating with everyone. I imagine you want to save the questions. You want to move into the next secret?
Yeah, let's save the questions for the end.
Okay, I thought so, yeah.
Let's get through this stuff here. I have a couple more here under constructing. So the first one was to create a separate identity outside of the relationship. The second one is to shift your focus. And what you want to shift your focus on is to what you want. A lot of women come to me. When they come to me, they're so focused on what's wrong in their lives or what their man isn't doing or how it's going to last forever, how all this horrible stuff is going to last forever. And then they wonder why they feel so bad and they can't get out of it. Well, here's something that you need to remember. Write this down on a piece of paper, circle it, put stars next to it, a smiley face, you know, draw some arrows going towards it and, you know, stick it on your refrigerator and look at it every single day. And here's what it is. What you focus on, you feel. And what you feel, you receive. And so if you're focusing on what you don't want, you're going to feel bad. And once you start feeling bad, you're going to start attracting more bad into your life. And you're going to do that through a variety of different ways. But the point is that you want to shift the way that you focus, what you focus on, and start focusing on what's good in your life right now. You know, focus on the moment, focus on imagining a future that's better and brighter than your past or the current moment. Because if you can see a future that's better, if you can look at a future that's better, if you can envision a future that's better, then you can be happy, you can be free, you can feel great about yourself and your life, you can be excited again, right? And if you've been feeling bad and things are going really badly, it's usually because you're focusing on all the wrong things. And you want to start focusing on things that empower you, that strengthen you, that make you happy, that make you feel great, right? Because then it'll be a lot easier, one, to be around you, but it'll also be easier for you, right? You'll feel great about your life. You'll feel great about different things in your life. It'll be easier to live your life. And so you want to change that focus.
Oh my gosh, I love that. So what you focus on, you feel, and what you feel, you receive. Do I have that right? Where did that come from? That's amazing. I've never heard you say that before. I really like that. Yeah, I think that's perfect. I talk about attracting what you feel. It's just perfectly in line with that. So good. Love it. Okay, what's the next thing you have for us, Matt?
The next part of this, so we're still on construct. First one is separate identity. Second one is shift your focus. Third one is create an abundance of options. And so this is the one that most women don't want to do, right? And it's one of the things that is very, very important to do, especially if you're not in a committed relationship. And this is something that I tell women all the time, and it's devastating to so many women to hear this. But exclusivity is not a committed relationship. And my suggestion is that if you're in anything other than a committed relationship, that you look at it as if you're still just dating. And so if you're in exclusivity, right? Because a lot of women, they get stuck in kind of the girlfriend boyfriend trap or the exclusivity trap where they're just like, you know, we're exclusive. Oh, it's over now, right? And they don't realize that this isn't moving towards the relationship that they want to have. Right. And so I know women in our community have been in situations like this where they were exclusive. The guy was still looking for somebody else.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so because they were just there, but he just didn't want her sleeping with anybody else while they were sleeping together. Right.
Absolutely.
So he was like, hey, let's be exclusive. Right. And she thought in her mind, oh, this means that, you know, he just wants me and he wants to be with me and we're in a relationship and everything's great, you know, and she doesn't realize that he's actually looking for somebody else. And so my suggestion is that if you're not committed, if he hasn't looked at you, he hasn't given you a ring, he hasn't looked at you and said, you're the only one that I want. I don't want anyone else. Let's do this. It's, you know, us together. You know, if he hasn't told you something like that, just assume that you are still dating.
Mm,
And if you're
okay.
still dating, you want to build options. And if you're exclusive, you don't have to necessarily date guys. And I don't recommend that you sleep around or anything like that, but just have other options of men. Because when you do that, when you start creating more options with other men and having more availability around you, you start to become less needy. You start to become less clingy. You become less desperate. You feel less like you have to force things with this guy and make something happen with him. And if you don't make it happen, it's going to be so devastating and life sucks. Nah, right? You want to have other options out there. You want to be able to get out of a world of scarcity of I've got to fix this guy.
Yeah.
I've got to change this guy. I've got to turn this guy into the guy that I want him to be and instead get into a world of, the next point, which I was going to talk about here. Actually, is this the next point? No, it's not the next point, but you know what? I'm going to talk about it anyway, which is switching your mindset from it being about this guy to being about the relationship. Stop making it about trying to get this guy to be the guy that you want him to be, and instead shine a light on the relationship that you want to have. And then allow the men around you, to prove to you that they're the right men for you to create that relationship. And when you do that, men will start chasing you. Men will start realizing that you are a catch.
Yeah.
Men will be afraid that they're going to lose you to other men. There's all kinds of great benefits to doing this. And I know a lot of women hate this. They hate it.
Yeah.
Right? They're scared. You've heard this before, right?
Yeah. Yeah, all the time. Yeah. We narrow ourselves down to this one guy. It's almost like I was interviewing Rory Ray, I think 2 years ago or something, my mentor, who, obviously taught me how to be a coach and all that stuff. And she says kind of like food allergies, like, we narrow ourselves down like, oh, I can't eat an onion. I can't eat a bell pepper. And it's kind of like that with men. We just want the love that we want from this one guy. And so when he's not doing what we are hoping he would do, we feel terrible and we focus even harder on him and try and pull out of him what it is we want. And all of those things just push him further and further away. So I agree with everything you're saying. I think it's totally right on. The question that I would have is what defines a committed relationship to you rather than just exclusive? Is it when a man says, I'm serious about this, we're moving things forward, we're on the same page in terms of what we want for the future, something like that? Okay.
When he says that it's just you two, right?
Yeah.
When he's talking about it being the two of you and it's nobody else, right? And you're moving towards you're both on the same page. You've talked about it.
Yeah.
Right? You've had the conversation. A lot of times women come to me and they're trying to be Sherlock Holmes, right? They're like, I saw the, this and that, and, I put it all together. And if I put it all together, what I've determined is, right. You want to stop doing any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Instead, actually have real conversations with him, especially if you're in a relationship. That's what you need to have. That's what keeps a relationship from completely falling apart, is having real conversations about important things that are going on between the two of you.
Totally agree. Yes, this is phenomenal. I'm loving this.
Right. So we're still in construct. And I couldn't finish construct without saying this. And this is the last part of it, which is, and then the next part's going to be connecting and then conveying. And so, you have to believe that you're worth the relationship that you want to have. You have to believe it, right? A lot of women come to me and they're trying to manipulate and cajole and prove and convince to a man that they're the right woman, because deep down inside, they don't really believe that they're worthy of it. And so you have to change that mindset. You have to, if you have some pain from the past, if you have a story of abandonment, or, you have dysfunctional patterns that you're in with relationships, you have to heal those. You have to break out of those, and you have to create new patterns and new beliefs around yourself and what you deserve. And that is, one of the things that a lot of women try to avoid, because it can be scary to look at some of those things. But the reality is that this will create the foundation for your entire life. It's so, so important. So, yeah, You ready to move on to the next
totally
one?
agree. Yeah, I'm trying to save my voice is really going. I'm not, so I'm trying to save it. But yes, I'm loving everything you're saying. I have so much I want to add in here, but I don't want to lose my voice for the questions at the end. So I think everything you're saying, totally right on. It's really resonating with everyone. I don't know if you can see these questions, but yeah, let's keep going. This is great.
Okay. And so the third C, the first one was communicate. Second one was construct. Third one is connect. And so a lot of women come to me and they're wondering if their man is missing them, right? The man pulled away or he disappeared, or maybe it's kind of like he broke up with her, right? And I'll usually dig into it, right? I'm like, okay, well, what were the last things that happened? You know, what was the last text message exchange? What was the last communications? How are the last couple of months? And they'll tell me things like, well, the last text message conversation was I actually worked with this woman. I did an event over the weekend, a live event over the weekend. And this woman was like, yeah, you know, our last conversation was me telling him off. And I told him he was an idiot and, you know, all these different things. And, you know, previous to that, it was just us fighting and arguing and, you know, hating on each other and trying to hurt each other for the last couple of months. And I'm like, my guess is that he does not miss you right now.
I was just going to say that. Yeah.
Right. And why? Right. Why? Because we want positive connections, right? Mm-hmm. There's something called the human needs model. And the human needs model talks about our emotional needs, what we need to receive in different situations. There are things that we need as human beings all the time, right? Things like certainty and significance and love and connection and certainty, significance, love and connection, and
safety or security.
Variety, right?
Okay.
Growth. We need we need to contribute to the world, right? That's kind of one of the higher needs that we have. And it's those needs, right? Those are the most important needs, and we're not going to get into them right now because we just don't have time.
Yeah. What's the next secret? Okay,
so we're on number 4, and this is the last one. So we went from communicate, construct, connect, and this one's convey. And so what you want to do is have a real conversation with him. And so, you know, like what Helena and I were talking about, the reason that you're doing any of this right now, you're not doing it, you're not here doing it because you have an amazing relationship and everything's going absolutely great and you guys are just loving on each other and there's absolutely nothing wrong, right? You're doing this because you're feeling taken for granted. You're feeling like he's been pulling away. You're feeling like there's something wrong in the situation. You feel like there's some kind of red flag going on, like you know, things aren't moving forward like they should be, like there's something missing, there's something wrong here, right? That's why you're doing all of this. And so what you want to do in this stage is you want to have a real conversation. You want to have a real talk with him. Is there something going on here? Right? Like I said, don't be Sherlock Holmes. You're not a private detective. You're not looking for clues about what's going on. You want to sit down and have a real conversation with him. A lot of women never have real conversations with their man, and then they wonder why they're not on the same page. They wonder why there's something that's big that's been bubbling up and blows up in their face at some point in the relationship, and it's because they've been ignoring the really important things that are going on in the relationship. And so you want to talk about things, right? Talk about things like, what does he want, right? Where is he at? Is there something going on with him? You know, just find out those things. Just have conversations with him about what's going on with him. Is there something that's pulling him away, right? Because it could be that there's something that's actually taking his attention and becoming his priority. I was talking to a woman over the weekend who had this guy who he was a musician, and you know, the whole pandemic thing ended up destroying his career, right? No, people aren't going to music events right now.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, you know, a lot of men, they base their self-esteem and feelings of self-worth on their jobs, right? Their careers. And so if that goes away for a lot of men can't focus on anything. They can't focus on anything at all until they fix that area and figure that out.
Yeah.
And so you want to find out if there's something like that going on, right? And if there is something like that going on, what you can do is just have a conversation with him about it. You know, what does he need, right? It might be that he needs some space. A lot of times guys need space during that time, right? That might be his need. You think that he needs, you know, you to smother him, but what he really needs is some space.
Right.
And so you want to talk to him about it and find out what's going on, you know, find out how long he thinks. Because most guys, you know, if they're feeling that way, or they tell you that they're not ready or they're unsure or whatever, you can ask them questions like, well, how long, you know, do you think this is going to take for you to become ready or to get through this or whatever? And most guys will have some kind of idea about how long it's going to take them before they're going to be ready for something with you again or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so you want to find that out, right? Or maybe he's not on the same page with you for the type of relationship, right? I get a lot of women who, because there's this myth in our culture where people say actions speak louder than words, right? That is a myth. That is a myth. Actions only sometimes speak louder than words. Sometimes words speak louder than actions. And so you want to look at a man's words and his actions and find out if they're in alignment. And if they're not in alignment, you want to look at whichever one is the worst of the two.
I was just going to say, yeah, I hear from women. I'm so sorry about my voice, you guys. I'm glad this is resonating with you. I'm loving all your comments. I hear from women all the time who say, well, he says he's not ready for a relationship, but he's doing all the things that indicate that he is. And so they're falling into this, well, actions speak louder than words. Well, maybe if I just hang in there long enough, I can change his mind. Or maybe he'll just all of a sudden magically transform into somebody who's available and ready for the kind of relationship she wants. So I like that. If believe the worst of the two. I mean, ideally, they're going to be matching up. I think with the right guy who's ready for what you want, they're going to be matching up. But if he says he's not ready for a relationship, believe him. I know that sounds obvious, but I hear from women literally every day who are hanging in there with a man who's kind of flat out told her that he's just not really ready for. Maybe he's fresh out of another relationship or like you said, trying to get his career in order or something like that. So I'm really glad you mentioned that. Thank you for that.
Yeah. And so if there isn't anything wrong, right? If you're having these conversations and there isn't anything wrong, things should naturally start aligning if you're doing all of this stuff, right? You're creating space, you're building value, he starts feeling like you're pulling away and he starts getting scared that maybe he's losing you. And most guys, if there's nothing else going on there, will start stepping up in that case. If he doesn't start stepping up because there's something going on there, right? There's something else wrong there. You need to convey to him in no uncertain terms that he might lose you if he doesn't step up his game.
Wow. Right? How would a woman do that? Are you going to give us? I'm like dying to know. This is so,
yeah, I can tell you exactly how to do it.
I hear from women all the time, like, well, should I say something or should I just kind of keep leaning back and see what happens? So I think we're big fans of really direct, straightforward communication, which is why I'm such a fan of your methodology and all of your work. So yeah, let's talk about that. How would a woman convey that to a man?
It's something that I call the power phrase. And I talk about this in a lot of detail in the Devotion Switch program. And what you want to do is you just want to say, hey, I understand, right? You don't want to get upset. You don't want to fight him about it. You don't want to attack him. You want to say, why, why don't you love me the way I love you? You don't want to do any of that kind of stuff, right? Instead, you just want to say, I understand, right? Just try to be as calm and collected as you can. And just say, hey, I understand. And if you change your mind, let me know. And if I'm still single, then we can talk about it. Right. And that's what you want to do. And then you want to walk away.
Love it.
You want to walk away until he comes back to you.
And truly, authentically, then I would imagine open up your energy to men who are available and interested enough to pursue you for the kind of relationship you want, right? None of this is a game. It has to be authentic. I think if it's not authentic, a man's going to be able to feel that you're just trying to do something to affect him in some way. And it's just all about him. And a man knows when you're just waiting for him. I think men can really sense that, right?
Well, and he might even test you for it, right? Because whenever you do this, what you're doing right now is you're breaking a pattern.
Mm-hmm.
You're breaking a pattern of behavior that's going on. Everything's patterns. Our whole lives are patterns, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we can tell different people's patterns. If you have a pattern of working out regularly, everybody can see that. If you have a pattern of eating junk food regularly, everybody can see that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you have a pattern of, working hard and building a great business, everybody's going to be able to see that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And if you have a pattern of, being in friend with benefits situations, it's going to be conveyed in your life. People are going to be able to see that. It's going to be, you're going to be able to see it in your relationship. And whatever your relationship is it's just a pattern, right? It's not you. It's not that you're not good enough. It's not that you're not worthy. All this stuff, it's not about that, right? It's just a pattern. Mm-hmm. It's not about you, right? It's not a indication of, how good you are, how whether you're good enough or whether you're a valuable human being. It's just a pattern that you are stuck in. And whenever you try to break a pattern, people will be resistant to it. It doesn't matter what it is. People are going to be resistant to it. And so when you break this pattern, what's going to happen is one of two things is going to immediately happen. Either one, he's going to get really worried and start chasing you, which is good. Or two, he's going to try to test you, and he might chase you and then try to test you, right? And we get this. We're actually Helena and I were thinking about doing a live stream just on this topic before, where a lot of women will come to us and they'll be like, my man is hot and cold all the time, and it drives me crazy, and I don't want him anymore. And you're like, well, why are you with him? He won't let me go, right? Mm-hmm. He won't let me go. And all he's doing is he's testing you, right? Mm-hmm. He's testing to see if you're serious, whether you really value yourself or not, which is why we talked about believing in your own value. Because if you're coming from a space of believing in your own value, you're not going to settle for a bad relationship. You're not going to settle for a friend with benefits situation. You're not going to settle for a guy giving you breadcrumbs. You're not going to settle for a guy treating you like crap, right? Yeah. You're going to walk away and say, I deserve something more. And you're going to shine that light on that relationship that you actually want. And you're going to say, I'm not getting with any man unless he's taking me to that destination.
So true. I mean, a man's not going to choose you, a man in this situation, until you choose yourself. You have to choose yourself and what you truly want. I know so many women who are just putting their own needs and desires kind of on the back burner because they have such strong feelings for this guy. And so they just put that first. They put their desire to be with this one particular man who's not really stepping up ahead of their own desire for a great relationship. So we want you to flip that around, I think is what you're saying, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
So important. I think that's phenomenal. Yeah. People want a live stream on that topic. Yes. I saw a couple of questions like that in the chat. Like, he won't let me go. He's not stepping up, but he won't let me go. So I think that might be a good topic for another video. Is that everything that you had to share, or is there another one, or should we?
Yeah. So that's it, right? That's okay. It. You're walking away and you're not coming back to it. Right? You're walking away because you're serious about it. And if he tries to get back together with you, you're not getting back together with him unless he tells you that he's taking you to the promised land.
So good. I think that is so great. I think every woman in the world needs to rewind that part, watch it a bunch of times. For the almost 400 people watching live, make sure to share this video. We all know women in situations who are just hanging around a man who's just not stepping up. And it's kind of obvious that he's never going to do that unless the woman makes a change. So that's exactly what we're talking about here. Do you want to recap while I scroll up and look for questions? We have about 15 minutes left, so we can't get to all your questions, but we can get to some of them.
Yeah. Let me recap again. So if you're in a situation where, you're being taken for granted, or a man's not stepping up, or you want your man to start caring about your relationship as much as you do, what you want to do is put yourself into a position of power. And the way that you do that is through the 4 C's, which is communicate, construct, connect, and convey. Communicate is letting him know that you're going to be doing other things and you're going to be pulling away because you're you've got other things going on in your life. Constructing is creating that separate identity, shifting your focus to what you want, creating an abundance of options with men, and believing that you're worth the relationship that you want to have. Connecting, he's not going to miss you. He's not going to feel like he wants to do all these things if you're not connecting with him in a way that makes him feel amazing about himself when he's around you. But if you are connecting with him in that way, he's going to feel like you're absolutely amazing, and he's not going to want to lose you. And then convey is having a real talk with him and, finding out what's going on. And if there's nothing going on, he will naturally start doing things anyway. If there is something going on, you want to find out what it is. And if it's something that's a problem, you want to use the power phrase where you let him know that you understand what's going on with him, and that, if he changes his mind and you're still single, to let you know. And, if you're still single, then you guys can talk about it.
Absolutely. And you're not going to be waiting around for him in the meantime, right? Yeah. So important. You're not saying that and then you're just going to wait for him because you think saying that's going to change his mind. You have to make behavioral changes and break the pattern. So important.